Hello and welcome back to Irons United for our Gift of the Gab podcast. It's been a while. We are coming back thick and fast with videos. I think we've had about 4 uploads today still. It's been a bit hectic over the summer, but we are coming back to you with a vengeance. Of course, I am Anton. In the middle is Stell, and to the far right hand side, a lot of you will know, but if anyone doesn't know, I'll let the man introduce himself. Sean, go for it. Let the fans of the channel know who you are and where you come from.
I'm Sean Whetstone, and I'm a West Ham fan. But I'm a presenter on a podcast called More Than Just a Podcast. I'm the associate editor of Claret Hugh. Occasional blogs on West Ham Till I Die. I'm on Twitter at West Ham Football. I think that's about it. I am also on the official supporters board for my sins as well in my spare time.
So do you actually get to see your family at all, Sean?
Yeah, of course. I multitask well.
Sean, can you tell us a little bit about that board that you sit on then? Give the fans a bit of an insight into that.
Well, do you know what? It goes back to pre the move. I joined the Supporters Advisory Board back in 2011, right at early doors, before the Olympics. And one way or another, I've sort of found myself in different variations of it until it was reformed into the official Supporters Board. You know, that's where I met Nigel, and those you know the podcast, Shedman, Nigel Khan, formerly of OLAS, did write for Claret Hugh for a little while. He's a presenter on More Than Just a Podcast with me. What's he doing? Oh, he writes for West Ham Till I Die now on a Thursday column, and he was transferred over. But do you know what? The story is we first met in 2011 at a bar in West Ham, in Upton Park, where Karen Brady was briefing us with David Gold and David Sullivan on the move to the stadium. And we couldn't be more poles apart, you know. He set up Hugh's View, anti-move. I was pro-move, and you know I became chairman of what was the committee that looked at the move to the London Stadium, and he became sort of the committee member who was trying to oppose it. But you know what? We're best of friends now, and a long time. That was 8 years ago, and in 8 years, I grew my contacts in the club. I started Twitter. From there, I started writing to West Ham Till I Die. From there, I was recruited by Hugh to work for Claret Hugh, became the associate editor. We started our podcast 9 years ago as well. And the time has just flown, really, in no time at all.
Sean, tell us a little bit about the supporters group, because there's they get an awful lot of stick from fans saying that they're specially chosen people. Yeah. It's not really fans. They only pandered to Karen Brady's agenda and all that sort of stuff. And when people from the outside are looking in, everyone jumps to conclusions, and especially if they don't feel that this group is representing their core little bit of fan base or whatever it may be. So how do you feel about that? Because clearly you guys are doing it, you kind of volunteer your time.
Yeah.
I was invited by one of the chaps who did the ethnic. You had an ethnic meeting with the board about a month ago. Unfortunately,
that would be Lee.
Yeah, I couldn't make that. That was Lee. Yeah, it was Lee.
Yeah.
So you hear from different sides that there are a lot of good things, and people are doing it for the right reasons. They're part of the board, this group, for the right reasons. But there's an awful lot of stick that you get because of it. I mean, how do you overcome that situation?
Well, it's difficult. If we go back to the SAB days, the Supporters Advisory Board, we had 120 people on that. Pretty much everyone who applied got on it. So there was no hand picking, because it was a massive group. And this is when we looked at the move to the London Stadium. Everyone who applied, anyone who got an application with 5 nominees, season ticket holders that had put them forward, got on. That was too big, and later on we reduced it to a smaller size, around 30. And at that time I was invited in by the club to look through applications and help choose someone as representative, along with the chair of the supporters club, the official West Ham supporters club, called Ken at that time, and we chose between us who would go on there. Now that was supposed to be private. Unfortunately, Jack Sullivan he was doing his work experience at the time, outed me on social media to say we did that. And there was no malice in there. There was no handpicking by Brady. We were left in a room, I promise you, with applications, and we picked people we thought, based on their applications, who were best for the job. Now, when the new supporters advisor, the OSB came along, the official supporters board, those were completely anonymised. So I applied like anyone else. I didn't get an automatic seat on the board, and they had 3 people. Carlton Cole was one of them. Sir Trevor Brookham was another one, and a woman called Mandy. I don't know her second name, from the Premier League.
Carlton Cole, Sir Trev, and Mandy.
Mandy. All right. And our names were taken off. Any identifying features like I write for Claret Hugh was taken off. And they picked and they scored them with points, and people were chosen. Now, I think they're a really good bunch of people. You know, we've had our ups and downs. We are better. There's a group of about 20 of us. We're better than the SAB ever was. We're on a WhatsApp group speaking every day. There's subgroups. We're doing a lot of work. There are some haters that will never like us and will say we're club puppets. And we've worked hard to change that perception. Look, some people will never get that. Some people have never heard of the OSB, never will. So, you know, there's some people say you need to be independent. But my view is, and funny enough, we've got a meeting coming up soon, because we only get appointed for a year, and our last meeting will be very soon. What I'll be saying to Karen Brady is we need to go one step more on the OSB, and we need to be democratically elected. I think that people who apply, their names should be put up for voting. The fans should vote, and those people who get the most votes will go on to the OSB. It's not perfect because it can be rigged, and the people with the more, you know, social media following might get in more, but I don't see another fairer way to do it. You know, we've tried an independent panel and that got criticised. So I think democratically voting is the way forward. But some people they will still be sceptical. Yeah. I think we've done a lot of good work. Are we perfect? No. Have the club tried to control us still? Yes. Have they tried to control the communication? Yes. Have they thrown us under the bus with the season ticket price increases? Yes. Are they learning? Yes. Are we making small baby steps? Yes. But I don't know what the alternative is at the moment. I believe in the OSB. Whether I'll be on it next year, I don't know. And I would hope that Hammers United and Wissa would join and be part of the conversation. Yeah, because they don't have a voice at the moment.
It's interesting because I was just about to ask you about them, because Wissa, I think you and I have had conversations. They've not been my favourite people because more the ticketing issues rather than anything else in the past. And a lot of people, I mean, the biggest surprise to me is that Hammers United and Wissa actually got together. You know, because I thought they were.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much they did. I think they wrote a letter together and which went nowhere. So I'm not sure they really being collaborative in the way it was suggested.
Okay.
Well, what do you think their real? The one point I want to just on the back of that is, what is their real reason for setting up? Is it because they genuinely want to make change, or is there all these groups? Because there is quite a lot.
Hammers United. I mean,
is there ulterior motives? Is there?
Yeah, Whistle was started in 2013. In fact, Nigel and myself originally were two of the founders of Wissa, and it didn't really go anywhere, and it was reformed in sort of 2017. And you know, they took it to big heights of when the march was, but I think it's gone in the completely wrong direction. Look, I don't hold in malices. I've not renewed my membership, and I think a lot of people haven't. They don't like me. In fact, I would go to say they hate me. In fact, they changed the constitution to say someone who sits on the OSB cannot sit on their committee, because I applied to go on their committee and then withdrew when there was a hoo-ha and they wanted to change the constitution. I did the honourable thing and said, I'm not going to stand anymore. But I was accused by the previous committee of, underhand, that there was some military coup and there was a coup d'etat.
But the irony is that, if they kept you on board, they would have then had a voice on the OSB, no?
They're very much anti-OSB. But what they miss, and everybody misses, is you can't force the club to listen. So the club will do what they want to do. And that includes the OSB, by the way. The club are a multi-100 million pound business, and they will listen to their customers, but they won't do what they say. So they will do what they want to do, right? And that includes season ticket price increases, right? If we'd have been informed and said no, they would have still done it. If you're independent, it doesn't mean anything. So if you go there and go, oh, we're Worcester, and then they say you shouldn't do the independent one, and say, well, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Hammers United got no problem with Paul Colborne. He's old school. They've done I like what they've done, which is small meetings in Plaistow Town Hall and very much a sort of community feel. But ultimately, to me, from the outside, they look like a protest group. They look like a group of people who didn't get their march under the real West Ham fans, and now they want to protest. But I'm not sure what they're protesting about. I think
this is what Ant was really implying, because we could understand that, the first couple of seasons in the new stadium, people weren't happy. It felt like we moved for what reason. We weren't progressing on the pitch. The stadium experience wasn't that fantastic. So you could understand how the real West Ham group kind of started all up. But, we sit here and wonder now, we don't have a problem with these groups. We kind of made a conscious decision at Irons United that we're not really going to sit on the fence, to be honest. We're not going to get involved. We're going to be not going to be for or against. But so we are sitting here thinking, okay, we've got a new manager, we've got a new squad, money's been invested. Some could say it's been invested in a little bit too late, but, and we're now sort of wondering, well, what is it that people now want? What's their aim?
Well, also, if we are being honest as well, there is a big split divide in our group as well. Like, some of us are sitting back going, we want more, and some of us are going, well, now it's happening, and we're accepting it. I mean, I suppose it kind of leads on, and we can kind of come back to that, but I just want to bring in, because people are asking questions already in the chat just now, but with regards to like breaking the news out to the fan base, Hugh, Sean, and I know you have been spoken about this in the public eye before. What's your take on it? I mean, for me to deny that we've taken news from your site and put it out on our site, I'd be wrong. I'd be lying to everyone to say that. But what is your thoughts on, getting news and putting it out before the club say announce it?
Look, we're a news site. We set up as to be the number one West Ham news site. We're there to fill a gap, and we try and be like journalists, and we want exclusives, right? And sometimes we can say stuff the club can't say, and often we beat the club to it. It's all fair. and I don't see a problem with it. People are telling us stuff. If people that, I'm not saying it's always club, it could be agents, etc. We live in a West Ham bubble sometimes, and we think this only goes, it only happens at West Ham. Right. It doesn't. It happens at every club, and we happen to be the one. Some of it's jealousy. People don't like that we broke the news first. We're not always, breaking the news first, and we like to credit people when someone else has broken the news, or quote them, or link them, and there's certain things we have to do to be on news now to link our sources and say where our sources came from. But no, do I have a problem with it? No. I mean, obviously I come into criticism when I release financial details or details of contracts that people said should be private, but don't we all talk about that kind of stuff, about wages and contract details at football? We have done. Maybe the only difference is I give a little bit more accuracy than a lot of it's been guesswork before.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it's a debate that people talk about how social media has fanned the flames of sort of news breaking, and so a lot of fans decry the past where you only found out when the club told you. It appeared in the Evening Standard on a rainy Monday evening that something's happened, rather than it all being plastered all over the place now. And I think for us, we laugh at it because we've never said that Irons United are in the know. We're not. We kind of rely on people like you. And you hardly ever give us anything. But but we kind of we pick up news and we try to present it in a different way. We do our shows and we get snippets and we get facts and we pull them together.
Stelios, I did give you something this afternoon. I told you the announcement was coming out at 4 o'clock, a full hour beforehand.
No, it was 10 minutes before.
Oh, was it 10 minutes beforehand? Still advanced.
And I bashed out a video 1 minute to 4.
Excellent. Well done.
But I mean, but it feels like there is this competitiveness that gets a bit nasty sometimes. And we kind of sit there and wonder why, because like you, we all want to know what's going on. We all love to be first to know, but it doesn't really matter to us. But it feels like there's an awful lot of social media sites that get really wound up about it.
Yeah.
And then there becomes a bit of an animosity. Rather, it's not a healthy sort of competition. It feels quite horrible sometimes. Because one social media
dog eat dog, 100%.
Dog eat dog.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you something. I mean, I have to have a really thick skin to be on social media, but most of the social media accounts, the big West Ham, we all talk to each other.
Right.
I talk to X talks to me. There are, I talk to journalists. We share stuff. It's not. There's this pretense from the outside we're at each other's throats trying to get that exclusive. And of course, there's a competitive edge, but actually most of us get on with each other.
It's a funny old game. It's like, I bring it back to when I was a kid growing up and you used to get the Hammers News magazine. Do you remember the magazine? They didn't
I do
anymore.
Remember it.
And, that came from the club, and there was a gossip section in that magazine. Yeah. And at one point, I remember West Ham were linked to Gabriel Batistuta. And that link didn't just come out from looking at teletext or whatever options club call when you could phone that at the time. That actually came from Hammers News magazine, the West Ham own magazine. Now, whether or not that link was true, they were generating that buzz around transfer links, and the fans were copping onto it and getting excited. And then obviously we never got Batistuta at the time, but it's a kind of continuation. I remember again growing up looking at teletext, looking at the roundup of gossip. Looking at us being linked to these players, thinking, we're going to go and sign Danny Mills, but we didn't. And again, all that kind of stuff, and it's just working its way around. But the social media. Sorry, go for it, Stel.
The club did that only 2 years ago, if you remember. They had the Bowling Insider, didn't you remember?
Yeah.
The Bowling Insider, who used to give gossip on the official website.
Yeah.
Until someone said at a supporters advisory board to Karen, what an embarrassing piece that is. And she agreed and she canned it for the next so if there's one thing it's criticised the SAB not doing anything, it got rid of the Bowling Insider. That's one thing. Apart from beer shells, it did do that.
So what's going to happen with the SAB now? You said they're coming up to the 1 year and then there'll be new people coming on board. I mean, what are the ambitions? What's the legacy of what you guys have left over the past year?
So that's a really interesting thing, and I was away last week, so I didn't go to a meeting they had to look at all the things they've achieved. I was part of the catering group, so we're working hard to make sure the West End don't feel neglected and how they can improve the catering. Obviously, I was at the ticketing subgroup, and we had some small concessions there. There's a lot more still to be done on ticketing, but we got the concession to move the deadline, and we've asked the club to look at a number of things, including the point system, etc. Match day experience. They've been involved in the shirt design for Umbro for next season and involved in that and got a lot of feedback on that. I'm trying to think of all the other things they've done, and I should have got a list ready. Look, some of the we're not alone, and I don't think it's about taking credit. Some of those ideas have come from other groups. Some of those ideas have come from fans, and we're a conduit to soak up ideas. The ideas can come from anywhere. It's not about claiming credit for the OSB or the SAB or one group or another group. We're all West Ham fans. It doesn't matter where the idea comes from. If it's a good idea and the club implement it, great. But I did, say earlier, the club will want to do what the club want to do.
But with that, could you not sort of try and promote the SAB to, say, Hammers United and Worcester and whoever else is out there? Could you not try and get them to sort of understand, that you will genuinely represent their issues? You will take that from their groups to the board.
I was still on Worcester on the committee when the OSB was formed, and I resigned because it refused to join the OSB. And I told them all about it, but they were dead against it. Have been ever since. So, both myself and Nigel resigned from the Worcester committee. Hammers United, I don't know Paul. I've never met him, but they had their own poll and decided not to. It was only by a few hundred people. But David Baker, the chairman, joined in the Facebook group and tried to give his point of view. Again, it doesn't sound like they want to join, and they're not keen to review it. That's down to them. But it's the only gig in town at the moment. Yeah. They've written us joint letter, but they've been told the same. Remember, OSB is not a group. It's a group of groups. The official supporters board, I represent Claret Hugh. Other people there represent other groups like Pride of Irons, who are FSF affiliated. I think it's called FFSA now, which were the Football Supporters Federation. They've changed them and they merged. So Pride of Irons are there. Claret Hugh. I'm trying to think of other groups. The supporters, the official supporters group is there. People looking after the West End, Blame, young people, women, etc. So each one of these representatives either represents a group or a group of people.
Right.
And if Worcester or Hammers United join, they would represent it. OSB is not a group on its own. It's a group of groups. It's a forum that gets you direct access to the board and the senior decision makers at West Ham and nothing more.
Does it then need a bit more marketing behind it then, a bit more of a push for people to, because, you started saying, and I think it seems that there's only, people that are only really interested in this are people that go on social media. That's what it feels like.
It does, yeah.
So however many number of fans we have on social media, but then you've got a load of fans that you see on match day that wouldn't even be bothered about all this.
Well, they don't even know about it. Do you know one thing I've realised from being on Worcester and being on the OSB and being on the SAB? There is complete apathy when it comes to groups.
Yeah.
Right? Most people you go to, they go, have you heard of the OSB? No. Have you heard of SAB? No. Have you heard of Worcester? Have you heard of Hammers United? No. Yeah. Right? Even real West Ham fans, no. The average fan does not care about an independent group, a club group, or no matter, and that's all of us. They just don't. There's complete apathy. They want to know who the next person we're signing, how well we're going to play, are we going to win a game? So you could talk to your blue in the face about groups. We always have a group. We have a laugh on the podcast and going, "Oh, we love a committee." We just love it. Well, we need it. That's what we lack in West Ham. We lack another committee. There is something very boring about committees. With agendas and minutes and everything. For most West Ham fans, they go, I come to West Ham to watch football, not to read agendas and minutes and everything else.
Politics,
Which is something, and one of the reasons I would say for us as whatever you want to call us, Irons United, was the main focus and the main reason why we set up. Stell will back this up, everyone will back this up in our group in particular, but West Ham comes first for us. Now, there's no ifs or buts about it when you put a post out and it hits retweets or it hits likes and shares and you're thinking, people like what we're writing. But at the end of the day, we do not lose focus. We've been doing this for 3 years and we've kept it grounded to the point of these colours are the reason why we do this. We turn up on match day because we support West Ham first and foremost. The minute that the love for social media and groups and like you said, Sean, it's right, takes over, is the minute that you are losing your real reason for why you're there, which is the most frustrating part. Again, what Stell was touching on, the arguments between the groups, the previously social media, all that sort of stuff. I've been involved in it, and I have no interest, not a single piece of interest in being involved in any arguments relating to that. I don't mind a good debate, but you know.
Sean, I want to come on to ticketing for a few minutes, and then we'll sort of we're about halfway through the show already.
Yeah,
and then we'll talk about the squad, your aspirations for the team coming forward, and some juicy transfer costs.
Oh yes, we certainly can give you that.
So there's obviously issues at the moment with the ticketing system.
Yes,
and I saw your message earlier that you sent to me that you put out. Maybe just to try and allay people's fears. I mean, is this going to be sorted before the first away game?
I do hope so. I've not, if I'm honest with you, I've not been able to talk to the right people at the club. So the customer services manager and the head of ticketing rung them both today, couldn't get hold of them, left them messages. They haven't got back to me yet. Obviously, I was told in advance that the Ticketmaster system, who is our partners, will be undergoing a major upgrade. And that's to allow things like, in the before you couldn't upgrade a child ticket to an adult ticket unless you rung the call centre. Now they're hoping to fix that and a number of other things that you can do online rather than ring the call centre. It sounds like, and I don't know this for a fact, that upgrade has had a few gremlins.
Yeah.
And
I've tried it myself today.
On Monday, I started getting contacted from people on the podcast, funny enough, saying, have you heard what's happened with the ballot? And then one person contacted me and said they spoke to the ticket office and said only 27 tickets was allocated for the Brighton game when it should have been a lot more. And then of course West Ham, and it was very, very tucked away. Look, if you're not on Twitter, and most people aren't on Twitter, right? We sometimes think everyone's on Twitter. West Ham only released something on West Ham Help on Twitter saying we've got technical difficulties with Ticketmaster. Bear with us. If you're waiting to hear from Watford or Brighton, bear with us. Now that's not enough, really. They should have either emailed the people or, other people are just saying we're not hearing. So they've got to communicate better on these things. And I think I've told you, we had an initial ticketing subgroup that talked mostly about the season ticket rises when we probably should have spent more time talking about other things, but it was just been dropped on us, so it dominated the meeting. But there are so many other things I think we need to improve on ticketing, and Ticketmaster need to improve.
Sure.
That it needs to change, including you're aware of the new away scheme, that everyone signed new terms and conditions.
Yeah.
And they're looking to challenge people with ID, and people have asked me about this, and I'm wary of it on the legalities of that. If someone comes up to you at a private venue, and now this would be a West Ham steward, and says, "Show me a ticket," I believe it's your right to refuse, and it's his right to then get someone to throw you out for not displaying a ticket. I'm not sure of the legalities of asking to show your ID either.
People aren't allowed. There must be you're not allowed to just go up to someone and ask. Even if it is a policeman, show me your ID. So,
and the police I don't see will want to be involved. So I think, look, I shouldn't be saying this, but I think this is more of a threat than an action to try and curb some of the abuse of the exchange. I've said for a long time, and I said at the sub meeting, there needs to be a legal way for people to return tickets for away games.
Yeah.
So if you're an away season ticket holder and you can't make it, in the same way you can't do it the thing, for a certain number of games, and there should be a limit, so it's not abused, maybe 5 games you can return your ticket for resale at normal price. The same goes if you buy a ticket and you're in with your points and you can't make it, if the ballot is sold out, so it was a sellout anyway, which most games are, you should be able to return it for resale, and if it's sold, you get the money back.
Would you advocate, if someone couldn't make a game, that they would forward it to someone who's a season ticket holder, or a West Ham fan, or anything like that, or would you want it to go back into the?
Well, I believe it should go back into the pool, and the only reason I say that is, at the moment, all right, you can forward to a friend for home tickets, but it's easy to get home tickets. I guess where people get a little bit emotional is it's so hard to get a hold of away tickets. Why should you pass it on to a mate?
Yeah.
When it should be passed down to the next person with a certain number of points. Now, that said, I know a lot of people with points that abuse points.
There are, but then that leads me on to the question about the ballot.
Yeah.
How fair do you think the ballot is? I mean, I get why.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get why they brought it in, but if someone's on, say, 21 points and a Bournemouth game is coming up, or whatever points, and they just missed out, because it's sold out on 22 points, and then it goes into the ballot. I mean, what people are saying is, a lot of people have put time and effort into going to Everton midweek, and all the old games, in midweek, to sort of accumulate their points. What was it, Wolves last season? On a Tuesday or Wednesday night, cold night, etc. So when people are putting in the mileage, to do that, why is it that that someone could then be a newish supporter, have no points, and then they manage to get a ticket for an away game? And I kind of see both arguments, but I don't know what that's why I asked you the question. Do you think if someone can't make it, should they have the right to be able to forward it on? So long as they're obviously forwarding on to someone who is a West Ham fan, because we all have pockets of mates, that we go to the games with, that we like to go to the home games and away games with. Not everybody in my group manages to get an away ticket. So if someone couldn't make it in that group and passed it on, so long as they do it in the legit way, through the system.
So I think I think maybe the long-term goal is you should have some kind of vote, that season ticket holders should vote for a number of different schemes and actually make it democratic. I'm all for democratic decisions, and at least then it can be fair and say, right, okay, every season ticket holder who cares about this can have a vote, and we'll vote for a model. The ballot system, I don't know if you read my article not so long ago about the away allocation. A very small proportion goes to the ballot. So the first group of people that I say abuse it, and I'll probably get some grief off them for this, are the bondholders. The bondholders have, when the bondholders joined the bond scheme, away tickets weren't part of it. They were added on later. The bond scheme was supposed to end when we left the bowling ground, but it carried on. They get more and more rights as it goes along, and they're like gold dust. It was a very shrewd investment in the end. 808 of them. For the big games, I'm told by the head of ticketing at the subgroup, up to 300 tickets go to bondholders. They get the top priority. The second priority are the 700 away season ticket holders, and of course that's right, they commit, but there's a long waiting list. Some of them do transfer their tickets to other people, and there is a second market on that, and how you do abuse. After that, and this is probably the most disputed part, up to 300 tickets, or is it 200? 200 tickets go to Club London. So for the smaller games, it's 150. For the larger games, it's 200. They go to Club London. So all the corporate people can enter a ballot to get 200. Then there's the players and their families. They get 60. I don't have a problem with that. And then there's 30 for staff, West Ham staff. I don't know if I do have a problem with that. I might have a problem with that. Why do they get, West Ham supporting staff? Then is a priority points holders, and then is the ballot. 10%
not a lot left when it gets down to that.
There is not a lot left when it comes to the ballot, and yet, so I don't look. I've never actually taken part in the ballot myself, even though I've only got about 7 points. I sit on the fence somewhat of yes. Well, I agree people get locked out of the system without a ballot, but I also think if we're going to attack the ballot, we need to attack Club London and the bondholders. I would take away the bondholders' rights or phase it out at least. I would attack the Club London. I would do everything and say, if we want to make this fairer, let's not just pick on the ballot, people. Let's pick on all of it. And just to be clear on the ballot, it didn't come from the SAB. I was at a meeting where it was discussed. The head of ticketing, who came from Aston Villa, she'd used it before at Aston Villa. She came up with the idea at a SAB meeting as a trial only. I actually spoke out against it and said there was great disagreement on KUMB about it. But other people said, well, let's give it a try. There was a trial and it stayed. And the feedback from most fans, and remember the majority probably are not people with priority points, say they like it because it doesn't lock them out of the system. There's no perfect way.
How do you feel about where the club? It sounds like the club is coming down heavy on the fans who do have an away ticket and can't make it.
Yeah.
You know, and it feels like the club is coming down quite heavy on them, and yet we all know that all these tickets that are being sold, all these away tickets that are being sold on these websites, you know, £100, £150, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We know that's coming from either bondholders or Club London, you know, and yet it feels like it's like there's two levels of there's a complacency for that, but yet they're going to hit the regular fan hard. If the regular fan can't make it, they've got to lump it. You know, you can't hand over your ticket or anything. I mean, will that be addressed or
I think they want to look. The head of ticketing, Nicola Kay, would want to address all abuse. And to be fair to her, anytime we found tickets on, away fans buying tickets online, etc., those tickets get cancelled. If she sees abuse, a lot of people say, how do these people get away with it? And I'm not going to name names of different. They are seen as, and I'm sure you know. It doesn't matter where the abuse came. If it come from, I haven't heard of this before, it's coming from Club London or bondholders, so I'll take your word. But if it is, I think the club will come down on it. But I think my challenge is it's time to review the whole away system and look at bondholders and look at Club London and players and staff and the ballot and the priority point system. I think the priority point system needs to be overhauled. I think you should get more points for going midweek up north, rearrange games, and the points should be, in the old days, right, I used to go to all the London games, right? I've got a young family at the time, so I used to go to Crystal Palace, London, Watford when they were in, Arsenal, Spurs, etc. And I used to go to one northern game that either used to be Liverpool, Man United, Man City, Everton, things like that, one a year, right? But when the system changed and the £30 cap came in, it became more and more difficult to get to any of the London games.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get to the Northern games. So, I've had to... I go to some cup games to build up some points. But really, if I go to one away game a year now, it's a rarity. Now, I'm not saying I have the time to go to lots and lots of games having a young family, but I'd have liked to go to a few of the London games like I used to 4 or 5 years ago. But I've accepted that's, it's changed and the more loyal supporters get priority.
And it has changed a lot, Sean. I mean, you talk about 5 years ago. I mean, you can go further back. We're getting loads of comments coming in the group, but I mean, I've been to games even down south. I live in Scotland. I've got a season ticket. I travel down to West Ham. I've got a young family myself. I'm finding it a little bit more tougher. But 5-6 years ago, I could have gone down to the London away games because you'd just phone up the club, you'd go into a queue system, and you'd get through. And honestly, at one point, I was adamant. I used to take some of my friends from up here who wanted to come to the games, and they'd be like, "How many tickets do you want?" I think there was maybe a cap at the time of 4 or 5. But now there's just that, like you said, this change for £30, which I think is great that you can go and see a football match for £30. But it is obviously, everyone's just.
Well, if we're reminiscing, I just want to put one quick thing in. I remember not only queuing up at Upton Park to get away tickets and waiting till the ticket office opened in a queue to get away tickets or cup tickets, but my favourite way of buying a cup ticket was faxing them. You had a form. and you'd handwrite the form with your details, and you'd put your credit card number in plain text on the form, and you'd fax it to them. You just hope the fax machine hadn't run out. And the reason you faxed it to them is they used to process the fax forms before they did the postal forms, so you get a slightly advantage on faxing them in. Anyway, sorry.
Some people are coming in. Just quickly. Some people are coming in saying, if I could go to a game, I'd happily pass it on to a friend. Someone else has come in and saying, I'd pass it to my family. Don't really care what the club try and do. So people are kind of saying that they'll do what they want with the ticket that they bought. Basically, is the vibe I'm getting from the chat. But they are saying, someone's just come on now, Welsh Hammer, go back to the old days, turn up at the ground, queue up, simple as.
Yeah. Well, do you know what?
Just said, yeah.
I wouldn't mind that, and I think in some ways it would be fair. It might penalise people who live in Scotland. Maybe.
It would. I just said still.
Sean, let's go on to the team and the squad. And we'll finish off on transfers, and we'll ask you about what you think of the players that we brought in so far. But what are your aspirations for the year? We put out a show earlier today where we all said who we think the hammer of the year is going to be. Who's going to be our top goal scorer, where we think we're going to finish in the league, etc. What about yourself? Who do you think we should be looking out for this season? In terms of hammer of the year, young player of the year. Yeah.
So I think first of all, let's do position. I think eighth is a top 8 position is what we should be trying for. We certainly should be improving on 10th. So 9th, we'd just about do it. 8th, I'd be comfortable with. 7th, with no injuries. And I've even predicted, because I did speak to Ray Parlour on Talk Sport last week. I said, or 6th would be up for grabs for someone if Chelsea muck up with Big Frank.
Well, that's what I predicted. I think teams like Chelsea, maybe another team, probably Arsenal, might just slip up. So I think there's a chance for. Yeah. There's maybe Leicester, ourselves, maybe Wolves,
Everton, and Watford, of course. They all had good seasons, and I think they're there or thereabouts.
Do we do we have? I know you do a lot of information on players, etc. Do we have enough strength and depth with this squad?
No,
and that's going to be our biggest issue.
Well, look, I guess we've looked a bit fragile defensively. I remember the old Liverpool squad that used to sort of win 5-4. I forget who it was under. We were talking on the podcast. Was it? I can't remember the manager. But they just had to rush forward, and it was just about scoring more goals than we conceded. And I do think that this season might be quite fun, but we might consider if we'd just be trying to score more goals than we concede, which would be great. We might see a sort of 5-3 like we saw, a 5-4 quite often. Defensively, look, we've signed Masuaku. I don't have a problem with Masuaku, but maybe defensively, is Fredericks good enough? Is Zabaleta still good enough? We've got two good centre-backs, but if they get injured, is a new guy, the 18-year-old, really ready? Winston Reid certainly isn't. Ogbonna looked a bit shaky pre-season. What happens if Declan Rice gets injured? Is Carlos Sanchez good enough?
Can we just stop you there, Sean, just on the defence then? From your knowledge, from your information, what do you know? Is there a potential outgoing departure in that area of our defence?
Not before Thursday.
Right. But...
No. Not before Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, there's something in that, isn't there?
Well, if you're bringing a new centre-back in, I think that will be readdressed in January.
Right.
So I expect either Winston Reid or Bonner to leave in January.
Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of predicted, we think Reid is injured again because
he's not.
He's not.
Is he not? Is he not? Well,
he's just not fit.
He's been managed.
I'll rephrase that. I think he's injured again. That's what because he's not been around the last 2 games. I can understand that he wasn't played for Hertha Berlin. He was rested, but then I expected him to be available for Bilbao, and he wasn't.
No.
So,
He's been having. We spoke to someone at the club. He's been having a specialist training regime. We've seen him in the thing, but he's a bit like some people have in the past. He has especially for one-to-one training. I was told he only joined the rest of the squad this week.
Right.
So he's not really ready.
But we have
I know he played half.
Well, to be fair to West Ham in particular, we've had a long history of injury-prone players, and we bring them back so early. And we do. This program that they're on, which doesn't work and hasn't worked in the past. Yeah. We have to give this new coaching and management style this opportunity to take over and bring these players back. And I'll come on to players like Sanchez in a minute. I know you mentioned it, but yeah, that's really interesting. So you're saying that not before Thursday, but coming into January with the news that Cardoso's come in, that Pellegrini's looking to potentially shift one of the two players.
And obviously the main thing, which is Fabianski, he didn't train today, and I've just put it up on Claret Hugh. I've told there's a very slim chance, maybe a 30% chance of him playing on Saturday. So obviously Roberto looks like to be. I mean, maybe it's a free hit, against Man City, because we expect to lose anyway. But I don't think he'd be ready for Saturday. Is what I'm being told at the moment. They'll look at him tomorrow, but I doubt he will train tomorrow either with the groin strain.
How do you feel about Roberto and Martin as the backup keepers?
Look, I liked Adrian, and great that he got his move to Liverpool. Do you know what? 24 hours before Liverpool came knocking, he hadn't had a proper offer. Earlier in the summer, he got $12.5 grand offer, which was a quarter of what he was on at West Ham. And then a La Liga Cup came in and offered him 20 grand. He was poised to sign it the next day. He literally was going to sign his contract. And although Liverpool had been linked, Liverpool came in and offered him 40 grand a week and a signing on bonus. Thank you very much. Good luck to him. I've met him. He's a really nice guy. Yeah.
It's funny though, but it's funny that because some people are saying, all that, he's a hammer, etc., and he bled hammers and now he's gone to a Premiership rival. There's quite a few people that don't like that.
No, good luck to him. No, I don't begrudge him at all. But let's talk about Roberto. Roberto hasn't endeared himself to fans, particularly when he got chipped in one of the games. I forget which it was. We do a Claret Hugh ratings where several hundred people put ratings. He consistently comes last in the forwards, which is not great. I don't think Dave Martin's going to be any better, although Dave Martin's homegrown, which helps us in another front. Look, we're going to have to do with it. We didn't think Fabianski would get injured. And let's just hope Roberto steps up to the plate.
Sean, on the goalkeepers front, we've got two young goalkeepers. I know Nathan Trotz went out to Wimbledon. He's now back through an injury, just to hopefully we can help him with that injury. And then we've got the young lad, what's his name?
Anang.
Yeah, Anang. What is the situation with him? Does the club genuinely think they're not good enough now?
Yes. Well, they think they need a... the problem with goalkeepers is it's not competitive enough in Premier League 2. So they believe that they need to go out to a football league squad. I mean, Trott should have gone out really to a championship, but he went to Wimbledon and pre-trained with them. He was going to be their number one, so he was going to play week in, week out. He's got a groin strain. He's come back. Whether he go back again, I don't know. Some rumours there, which I won't go into in the moment. Anang the same. He needs a good, before you can be a Premier League backup goalkeeper, you probably need to do a season in the Championship before you're ready.
Controversially, do you? Because if you look at lots of leagues throughout the world, in particular the Italian league, who are really known for their defensive style, not conceding goals, they give youth goalkeepers a shot. And by the time they're age 19, they've got 100 appearances under the belt and they're playing for the international side.
I think West Ham and Pellegrini see it different. They think you need a season under your belt at the Championship or League One.
Right.
So let's go on to the defence then. We signed Cardoso today.
Great signing, by the way.
Yeah. And from what I've sort of read about...
I'm going to give you an exclusive, by the way.
Yeah.
Go on.
The exclusive is and this hasn't been revealed before, he had a €12.5 million release clause in his contract.
How did we get away with that then?
And we got him for €5 million.
Oh.
€3 million
up front.
Up front or over whatever the installments that David Sullivan negotiated, and €2 million in add-ons based on how many Premier League experiences he makes.
I mean, given that teams like Lazio apparently were interested in him, and I don't know if those are true rumours or not.
Certainly Benfica were interested in him, so were Watford.
But there's still a $7 million deficit, so how did he manage that?
Yeah, I mean, how did he manage that?
I don't know, but let me tell you another secret, but you can't tell anyone.
Right.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Go on then.
It wasn't a Husilius deal.
Oh, don't tell me Sullivan dealt with this one.
Wheeling and dealing.
Well.
He's so small. He's so small. He hid behind all the cameras. No one could see him because he's so small from negotiating. Oh man. Do you know what?
That is a surprise because it's Husilos who's getting the credit for it. You know.
I know he comes out in the website as doing it, and Allaire, you know, that wasn't a Husilius signing either. But look, they're a team, right? They're a team.
Okay, but let's put it to you another way then. I mean, Husilos and Pellegrini have a say in who comes in.
Oh, of course they do. Yeah, of course.
So maybe Sullivan has dealt the deal, but if Pellegrini turned around and said no to, I don't know, one of those players, what would happen then? Who would have the last say?
Pellegrini always. Yeah. Okay. If Pellegrini says no, then the player doesn't come. You know, a manager always has a final say.
Without naming names, then who brings a player like Sebastian Haller to Pellegrini? Is it the scout system?
So there's a number of ways, right? So there's a scouting system, of course, right, and a big video analysis system. But do you know how it really works? Agents, intermediaries. Yeah. They come up to Pellegrini, to Husilius, to David Sullivan, the three main people, and they go, we could get you this player at this price. The intermediaries play a massive role now. It's often not the players' agents, it's the intermediaries. And they're these shadowy figures. You know, in a deal, even a deal like the deal today for Cardoso, probably 4 or 5 or even 6 agents involved, intermediaries, agents from different sides, acting for the club, acting for the other club, acting for the player, and intermediaries putting it all together. They're all on a payday. That's how it really works. But sometimes it's better not to know how sausages are made and just eat them.
We've been asked a question in the chat. Given all that, how the hell did we manage to sign Hugel?
Well, I'm restricted by libel laws, and I'm so are you. Look, there are lots of rumours going around about that. QPR, funny enough, who he just scored for, we're about to sign him for 1.2 million, and then we go and sign him for 8 million or 9 million, depending on who you believe. Obviously, it was David Moyes' ex-club. There are rumours that his brother was his agent. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was a poor deal. It was a poor deal, and I think we should leave it at that because I'm not into conspiracy theories.
Okay,
we are in a. I was going to say we're in an interesting topic now, so let's just stay in this topic. Let's go for some. Let's go for some juicy bits of news. We've got players that are still at the club, potentially some youth players. Do you foresee before Thursday any big named or squad or just anyone in the first team squad leaving the club?
No.
Not even players like Diangana?
No. I think Diangana stay. Cullen we need for homegrown. We've got 23 players at the moment. We've got 7 homegrown. So we only have enough squad for 1 more. But I think I was told Cullen is going to stay, Diagana's going to stay, Ben Johnson's going to stay. They think there's a big future for Ben Johnson. Yeah.
So given that, what about players like Nathan Holland? All these other youth players. I mean, we're kind of now hearing that they might all go out on loan.
Yeah, Nathan Holland is. They
Coventry,
are looking.
Hull, right.
They are looking for a club for Nathan Holland. His wages are a bit of a problem. I think Connor Coventry's in the same boat as well. So yeah, there are a few fringe players, I would call them. If you look at West Ham's official website, have a look at the first team. You can see which youth players are already in the squad because they've given them all in the first team there. So you've got Diagana, you've got Ben Johnson, and you've got who else am I missing out of that? Ben Johnson
Cullen as well, yeah.
And Cullen. Yeah, you've got them all in their pictures on the first team. The rest of them are fringe players. They're either playing Premier League 2 or if they get a good offer. I think one of them was rumoured to go to Slaven at West Bromwich Albion. Yeah. We do try, by the way, to get a loan fee. We want their wages paid and a loan fee if we can get away with it.
So there's two main players.
Unless your name's Jordan Hugo.
Yeah, in which case, as I'm sure you know, because I've reported it, we're paying 40% of his £33,000 a week wages, with them paying 60%. So they're paying us about 20 grand a week.
Great.
So there's two main players in the first team squad that they're in their final years of their contracts.
Yeah.
You know, it's Hernandez and Lanzini.
Yeah.
And, you know, they can both start talking to foreign clubs in January.
They can.
So, I mean, we're expecting we're expecting some notification soon, we hope, that Lanzini's signed an extended contract.
So with your face there, Sean, sorry still, but just on that, let's go for it. Sean, what have you got for us?
Well, Lanzini's representatives have so far do not want to negotiate to sign a deal. They want to run down his contract to make him a free agent.
Given that then, Sean, should we not be selling him before the end of this transfer window?
I think, look, we want him this season. We think we can persuade him to stay. There was a lot of dispute over... We've got a 2-year option, by the way, right?
Yeah, apparently that option's null and void, isn't it?
Well, look, I think the club have decided to put that on the back burner and stop arguing about the 2-year option, to take it off the table, to make it... The club believe it's enforceable. His representatives don't think it is. There's no point in getting a legal fight because that's not the way to keep a player.
Yeah.
The player needs to recover from injury. He's on a very, very low wage. You know, he's on 35 grand a week.
So that's true then, is it? Because we all thought he was on 70.
He was offered 70 and he never signed a contract because he got injured just before he signed a new contract.
Okay.
So he's only on 35. You know, I think we'd definitely put him on 70. He wants to be on... His representatives want to put him on 100 or something like that. You know, representatives always do. There is a chance he'll run down the contract and leave as a free agent.
I mean, that's a £30-odd million player. You know, at the moment.
Not with 12 months remaining on the contract. Doesn't work like that. Not 12 months.
What would he be worth at this point in time?
It's a difficult one. Probably about half of that.
But he's probably worth more to West Ham this season than what that transfer fee is. I kind of get what you're saying, Sean. I think that if we have a Lanzini playing on all cylinders and the players in and around him giving him that freedom, and West Ham perform well, finish reasonably high up the league, we can attract better players, we can generate more money and keep him interested.
Yeah.
I kind of get
and
that.
I think
agencies aside, Sean, I mean, what about the player? I mean,
I don't know because I don't know the player and I haven't spoken to him. I speak to agents and I speak to people at the club. I don't speak to players mainly.
Sure.
So I don't know what Lanzini. He seems happy. You know, he seems in form. How many goals has he scored pre-season? I know that's meaning a thing. But you know,
given also that we've supported him through a very, very serious injury.
But we were paid by FIFA, by the way. So FIFA covered 100% of his wages. You know, we didn't. You know, FIFA funded that all. But yeah, look, if the player wants to sign for us, I hope that we can do a deal. But I think it's not guaranteed that he will sign a new deal.
Sean, is it down to a number, for example? So if West Ham turn around to him and go, we'll make you, just for talking sake, the best played player at the club, do you think he would sign that?
Yeah, I think he would.
So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there's comments in here and people are saying why don't we just give players what they want within reason? Within reason, but not just any player, but within reason. Why do we not give Lanzini?
So the highest paid, you talked about Hernandez, who's on 145. Are we going to pay him 145 to give him parity? You know, we already have a number of very high earners now. The problem with Hernandez, you know, you mentioned Hernandez, is we have tried to punt Hernandez out all summer. No one will take him because no one can afford his wages. No one in Europe can afford to pay 145, and there's no one in the Premier League who wants to pay 145 for him. You know, so he will probably run down the contract and he'll leave and he'll get a gig in China or LA or whatever. That's the problem. Why should we allow him to leave and pay 50% of his wages? Would you want to pay 70, 80 grand for him to play abroad somewhere else? I would. Absolutely. I would rather keep him.
Absolutely. And I guess this is the thing with, you know, we've looked at the transfers throughout the summer, and I think we've bought well, you know, the players that we've actually paid money for. We haven't necessarily sold well. You know, Byron went for what, 750 grand. We hear Marcus Brown went for around 300 grand. I mean, you know, sorry,
200,000. 200,
even worse. You know, and you know, I mean,
and of course, the worst one of the all, Reece Oxford went for absolutely nothing.
Zero. Exactly.
Because we sold him for 2.1 million, and that 1.1 million went in bonuses to him and his agent to compensate them for him taking a pay cut.
Okay, let's talk about Oxford for a minute. How is he? I mean, we keep hearing about all these stories about his attitude. Why has he fallen from grace so much? I mean, the boy was blessed with so much talent. You know, we were talking about him being the next Rio Ferdinand. What exactly went wrong since that Arsenal game?
It's not fair for me to talk what I've heard, but it involves an attitude and the people he hangs around with. I don't know the player, so it'd be unfair to me to repeat all the bits I've heard. But you know, he got paid 20 grand a week for an academy player to be the highest paid academy player. It appears from the outside the money went to his head and he became a big time Charlie. Right. And if he made it. Successive managers tried to give him a chance. You know, David Moyes, Bilic, and then Pellegrini. He wasn't in Pellegrini's plans. So 3 managers can't be wrong. This can't be a club issue.
Totally agree. Yeah.
This has got to be the player issue. And you know what? He's a young chap. Let's hope he doesn't turn into a Ravel Morrison and thinks he's a big time Charlie and ends up dropping down the leagues.
Mexican leagues.
Yeah.
Do you think have we got any for either him or for Brown? Have we got any sell-on fees with these clubs that they've gone to? Or
I think with Brown there is. I mean, they're small. They're like 5%. Okay. I don't think there is with Oxford. I don't think. Sometimes it's what you can negotiate, and we were desperate some of these just to get the 20 grand a week off the wage bill. So you try, and if you can get a sell-on fee, you always do. But most of the time, you know, if it becomes a sticking point, you sort of throw it out.
Sean,
sorry, mate, go on.
Sean, we're aware of the transfer deadline date is approaching very quickly. Yes. We're also aware that the world works in mysterious ways, and things can chop and change left, right and centre. You can report that nothing's going to happen. The next minute something is going to happen. But I think, as any normal West Ham fan could predict, that West Ham are still potentially interested in players in the transfer market. The famous comment that David Gold said was, "Don't go to bed," signed it off DG. Do we go to bed, Sean, or not?
No, don't go to bed. Don't go to bed.
How many are we expecting, roughly? How many would ideally?
One. And the only reason is we've got one squad player. I don't think we've got enough time to get Chicharito out and get a replacement. I don't really think there is any. Cullen can't go out. We need him as a homegrown player. So unless he's replaced by another homegrown player, I don't think. Diagana doesn't even take a squad position, because he's under 21. Although he is 21, he wasn't 21 on. And the same with Johnson. So you know, there's no point. You know, any of those moving them out, it doesn't make any difference because they're under 21. So we're looking for one. It's well reported. We're looking for a backup striker. What's his name? Ajeti.
Yeah.
A jetty. I spoke to someone just before I came on air because I was told it's they wanted too much money. I was told there's a 50-50 chance. The person I spoke to is very pessimistic, so 50-50 usually means more than 50-50. We're competing with Slaven Bilic, who also wants the player. He's 22. He scored a lot of goals in a lower league. And if we can get him over the line, that will be our final squad position filled.
If not him, are there any other players maybe lurking behind him?
I don't think so. I have asked that, and I don't think there's anyone else close. I know we've been linked with Stuttgart defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Don't see that happening. Too expensive. We haven't really got the budget for that, and I think they want a striker, not a defensive midfielder.
So what about this rumour of Bertrand Traore as a loan to sign? That, I guess, is not on the cards?
And again, I don't see it. I haven't asked the particular question because it would be really boring. If I asked one of my sources, every time a name came out, they would go, leave me alone, Sean, right? I can't ask every single rumour that comes up. You have to take... historically, Pellegrini, and you look through all of his history, doesn't like loans.
Yeah.
So I always take loans with a big pinch of salt. Pellegrini doesn't do loans. Personally, I haven't asked. I haven't got no inside knowledge. I don't think that one will happen either.
Right. So really, we're just looking at one more player. If it isn't this Ajeti, then that's it for us.
Yeah,
so
I don't know if it's for it to say, but that's the trick for the matter. Look, I'm sure we'll all get wrapped up and there will be lots of rumours on transfer deadline day. But the truth of the matter is we've got one position, and unless they've been keeping a secret one from me and a jetty, there's another backup for a jetty. I think that will be it, or no one.
I mean, I started to do this weekly show on a Sunday night, and I research it throughout the week, and the number of players that we get linked to in just a 7-day spell is astonishing.
It's
absolutely astonishing. Yeah, so it's good. I can do the next show because this transfer window ends and it'll only last 10 minutes.
Yeah. There will be lots more names as well, we'll be linked with them.
Absolutely.
And I denied, the two Dannys. So Danny Welbeck, by the way, so after the transfer deadline, of course, free agents can still sign with us. Yeah. But Danny Welbeck, no. Danny Sturridge, no. Danny Drinkwater, no. Obviously, Cahill's already gone to Palace. Balotelli, no. We're not looking at these older people on mega wages anymore.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing. If we look at the style over the other, certainly this transfer window, it's just young players. Buy them young. Get them in on 4 or 5 year contracts, and then hopefully, if they do well, the whole club does well. We move on as a club. But if they go to be sold, then they'll be sold for what should be a decent whack of money.
That's the Tottenham model. That's the Tottenham model.
I'll make a prediction for my hammer of the year, and it's not the most obvious one. It will be Pablo Fornals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not Allah.
I've actually gone for Wilshere. If he stays fit, I think he's going to be our key player this season.
Yeah, he's looked really good, but I just got a funny feeling that Pablo Fornals is going to be the star of the season.
I went for Lanzini, interestingly, because I think they're just going to give him as much freedom as they possibly can this year, and he's going to really, after his injury last year. But it's just, do you know what? It is exciting. Look at the midfield. The midfield in particular is exciting.
It is, and I can't wait to be beat on Saturday and come down to Stadium and get beat and have the life sucked out of us when reality finally hits us.
Oh shit!
You never know, Sean. You never know.
You never know.
Listen, the chat's absolutely crazy just now. I can't even really keep up with it, but we've pretty much covered everything. People are saying that Reed isn't fit, and obviously we've answered that one. And people are saying we expect 2 or 3 more to come in. Money has ruined the game. It's all about the agents.
True.
All that sort of stuff. So it's all there. Anything else you want to add, Stel?
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Took us a while to get you on, but at least We made it.
Yep.
Are you
Well,
going on
hopefully-
Saturday? Are you going to the supporters club on
I
Saturday?
will, yeah, because I didn't say. I often see you guys down at the supporters club, and I spoke to supporters club earlier. I did a story about them because they've had a problem getting the venue, so they've arranged Stour Place this Saturday. So if you're a member of the supporters club, please go down and support the supporters club at Stour Place, because I know they didn't get a lot of support last week. Only 6 people turned up.
So just for
but-
anyone watching, and on the back of what Sean has said, they're officially one of our partners for the channel. Most of our guys go down there before and after the games. If you are interested, we do videos from the venue, but it's a great place to go, get some great Insight West Ham chat, old school, new school, young, old, in particular those two guys there. Lots of rum on sale, lots of burgers on sale. You just get in and get the chat on the go. It's a great place to go. Become a member. I'm right in saying...
25 quid.
Yep.
25 quid, yeah.
It's better if you do become a member. If you don't become a member and you're only going to turn up once, then I think you can pay on the door.
£2 on the door.
Yeah.
£2 on the door. You're supposed to be a guest of a member, but I'm sure if you ask for myself or Stelios, I'm sure we'll sign you in.
Have they now got Stour permanently, or is it just for this?
No, so they've only got it for one game, so they're having a bit of a problem. And like I say, I've done an article on Claret Hugh today to say they're still looking for a venue. They're discussing with various different venues. They are about to sell the flats that they own in Green Street that will give them some money. I think they need to decide what they're going to do with the Castle Street clubhouse, because that's burning a hole in their pocket with the expenses and rates every month. So, they're hoping to make this a transition year to really get back on their feet and put behind what went on. But I'll be supporting them, and I'm sure you guys will.
Yeah, 100%.
too. I've got a lot of time for the committee. I've got a lot of time for the people who put in so many hours voluntary to keep this 70-year association live.
Yeah. And like I said, Sean, we had approached, fortunately through Stel, Donna, and spoke to all the people as part of the supporters club and said we'd give them our full backing. So we're going to be there as much as we can, follow them, and we always try and promote them on our social sites. We're going to do a couple of giveaways for them, because again, through our official partners at Umbro, we're giving football tops, so we'll get some football tops and do some things to help them raise as much money as they possibly can.
Excellent.
Stel, anything else, or are we going?
No, just looking forward to our first win of the season on Saturday.
Sean, predictions?
I'll see you there then, Stelios. Actually, so I'm going to be there not before the game, but probably after the game.
We'll see you after then, Sean.
Yeah.
Predictions?
Right. Predictions, 3-1 to Man City is what my head says. My heart says 1-0 to West Ham.
Cool. Stel, I know we're going to do a preview on Thursday, but just go for it. Why not?
2-2. Because as you said at the beginning of the show, Sean, we're going to have to score. We are going to score goals this season. I think, given what I only saw one pre-season, which was Bilbao last week, and the first half was, forget the fact that they scored 2 goals very early. The way we came back and the way we demonstrated our attacking prowess was quite awesome. It was actually quite enjoyable for a pre-season friendly. So I think we're going to score a hatful of goals. I think we're going to let in a hatful of goals, but I think we're going to score a hatful of goals as well.
Let's also not forget VAR is introduced this
season.
That's
going to be our friend this season.
Yeah, so I'm actually just going to be a bit random and go for it. I'm going to go for a 3-2 victory to West Ham, but we'll come back to you with our preview on Thursday. I can live in dreamland, and I'll get, like you said, put back to reality come Saturday afternoon. Anyway, Sean, thanks very much for taking your time to come on the show. It's been a pleasure. Please don't be distant. Please come back, and we'll have you on, and we'll try and do an interview with you at the Sports Club. Of course, Stel, thanks for joining us. I've been Anton. He's been Stel. He's been Sean. Come on, you Irons.